Most men get this wrong in the first 5 seconds. They think women over 40 are chasing love. They're not. They're chasing something far more dangerous. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody says out loud. Attraction after 40 isn't driven by fantasy anymore. It's driven by hunger. Psychological hunger. The kind that hides behind confidence, independence, and "I know what I want." And if you don't understand that hunger, you'll feel chemistry, then confusion, then rejection you never saw coming. Because by 40, desire isn't about butterflies. It's about repair, repairing identity, repairing safety, repairing time lost to the wrong people. Dog psychology teaches us this: behavior always follows unmet needs. And the longer a need goes unmet, the more quietly it controls decisions. By this age, those needs don't shout, they whisper. And whispers are harder to detect. She may look composed, successful, grounded, but underneath, something is missing. And whatever is missing becomes the real object of attraction. Not you, what you represent. That's why 2 men can do the same thing, and only one triggers obsession. That's why connection can feel instant and intense, then vanish overnight. So before asking, what does she want? There's a better question. What is she starving for? Because once you see that, you can predict everything that comes next. Here's the first hunger most men completely underestimate. Validation, not the obvious kind. Not compliments or flirting. Something deeper, more psychological. For years, her value was reflected back to her without effort. Attention arrived first. Confidence followed. Desire was automatic. Then time interfered, quietly, relentlessly. Dark psychology calls this identity withdrawal. When a person's self-worth was externally reinforced for decades, and suddenly isn't, she doesn't panic outwardly. She adapts. She learns new styles, new routines, new confidence language. But internally, there's a question looping on repeat. Do I still matter? This woman isn't chasing a man. She's chasing proof. That's why generic praise bounces off. You're beautiful feels hollow because she's comparing it to the past. But comment on her taste, her insight, her emotional intelligence, her presence in a room. Watch what happens. You didn't compliment her. You stabilized her identity. She attaches fast to men who do this consistently. Not because she's needy, because you quieted a fear she didn't know how to articulate. Pay attention to how she reacts when younger women get attention. Watch her nostalgia, the old photos, the back then stories. Those aren't memories, they're measurements. And here's the dangerous part. When validation is the hook, attraction lasts only as long as the reassurance does. Which raises a critical question. What happens when reassurance stops working? The second hunger is quieter, but far more binding. Safety, not physical safety, emotional safety, nervous system safety, the kind you only crave after it's been shattered. By 40, many women aren't carrying heartbreak. They're carrying trauma, betrayal that never fully healed, promises that collapsed, a trust system that learned to stay alert instead of open. Dark psychology calls this protective attachment. When the brain stops seeking passion and starts scanning for shelter, this woman doesn't fall slowly. She latches. Consistency feels intoxicating. Reliability feels romantic. Your calm presence registers as chemistry because her baseline used to be chaos. And here's the illusion. Relief feels like love. When anxiety disappears, the brain interprets the absence of pain as pleasure. She bonds quickly, intensely. She may talk about the future before the present is even stable. It feels flattering, magnetic, almost unreal. But understand what's happening. She's not bonding to you. She's bonding to what your stability does to her nervous system. When safety becomes normal, the emotional spike fades. Gratitude weakens, and what once felt like deep connection starts feeling flat. That's when confusion begins. For both of you, the wounded attacher isn't deceptive. She truly believes she loves you, until she doesn't. And when protection stops feeling urgent, something else quietly takes its place. But that next hunger? It's the one that destroys patience entirely. The third hunger doesn't come from pain. It comes from suspension, waiting. This woman has lived for years with the feeling that her real life hasn't started yet, that everything so far has been a prologue, temporary, practice, almost. Dark psychology calls this deferred identity. When someone believes fulfillment exists in the future, not the present. She dates, she connects, she commits halfway. Because in her mind, the real thing is still coming. The man who will unlock her. The experience that will finally change everything. The moment that makes life feel vivid and meaningful. So she chases novelty, not because she's impulsive, but because novelty feeds hope. Every new connection whispers, maybe this is it. At first, you feel special, chosen, charged. You might even feel like the answer she's been waiting for. But watch closely. The moment you become familiar, grounded, real, the magic starts leaking out. Because reality can't compete with fantasy. And she's loyal to the idea of transformation, not the work of intimacy. She's never fully present, always scanning old flames, new messages, hypotheticals, what-ifs. Not because she's disloyal, because she's still waiting. And the most dangerous part? She doesn't know what she's waiting for. Only that it's not here yet, which leads us to the next pattern. The one rooted in fear of adulthood itself. The fourth hunger is rarely admitted. Dependence. Not emotional dependence, structural dependence. This woman never fully learned how to stand alone, not because she's weak, but because she never had to. Someone always handled the hard parts, money, decisions, direction. Life was managed around her, until it wasn't. Dark psychology calls this arrested autonomy. When adult capability never fully develops and suddenly the safety net disappears. Divorce, loss, aging parents. Financial pressure. Reality hits and she feels exposed. What she's chasing isn't romance. It's a handler, a man who knows how things work. Who decides? Who stabilizes? Who takes over the weight she never learned to carry? But here's the paradox. She resents the very thing she needs. Authority feels comforting and humiliating. Stability feels safe and suffocating, so she rebels against it. She's drawn to emotional intensity because intensity feels like freedom. She confuses chaos with aliveness. You'll see it in the oscillation. Responsible choices followed by impulsive ones. Stable men she sabotages. Unstable men she can't resist. She wants to be taken care of without feeling dependent. And that contradiction creates relationship whiplash. If you're the man offering structure, you'll feel both desired and resisted, needed and rejected, trusted and resented, because she isn't choosing you. She's fighting herself. And that internal battle never stays contained. The next pattern, it looks powerful on the surface, but it's hiding exhaustion underneath. Here's the truth that ties every pattern together, and it's the part most people avoid because it removes the fantasy. Women after 40 aren't chasing men. They're chasing resolution. Resolution of lack of safety, lack of identity, lack of validation, lack of direction, lack of permission to rest, to surrender, to finally stop performing. Dark psychology teaches this simple rule. Need creates attachment, but want sustains love. And here's the twist most men miss. If you perfectly supply what she lacks, she may attach fast, intensely, powerfully. It will feel like fate. But if the connection is built on need alone, it has an expiration date. Because when the wound closes, when safety becomes normal, when validation stabilizes, the emotional charge fades. That doesn't mean women over 40 can't love deeply. It means the healthiest ones know their pattern. They don't confuse relief with romance. They don't confuse intensity with intimacy. They don't outsource their missing pieces to a partner. So the real question isn't, how do I attract her? It's this: can you recognize what she's chasing and decide consciously whether you want to be that? Understanding isn't manipulation, it's clarity. And clarity is the difference between repeating cycles and building something that actually lasts.